Welcome, everyone, to another live conversation and YouTube Live with David Green Real Estate. David will be here in just a minute or so. Do me a favor, drop a comment down below in the chat box and let us know where you are hanging out from tonight. It's great to have everyone here. I'm going to let's just get a little music playing here and just kind of set the tone a little bit. We got some good topics that we're going to be talking about tonight, which I'm actually really looking forward to. We're going to talk about FedNow and what that is. This is the end of financial freedom as we know it. Who knows? Is this all a conspiracy? We actually don't know. But really looking forward to it. Let's do a quick check-in and see who we have here tonight watching with us as people trickle in literally from all over the beautiful world that we live in. Timothy Smith says, good evening. Good evening to you as well. Let's see, who else we got? Devin from Whittier, great to see you. Let's see, we got, Yifty's asking about mortgage and stuff. I see some answers for him. Dora from Napa, wine country, beautiful, good place to be as usual. Dewan just got here. Is the popcorn still warm? It absolutely is. Get your popcorn, settle in, hang out. It's going to be a good evening with myself and Mr. David Green, who's, I believe, on Instagram, still trying to get all of the Instagram peeps over here onto YouTube world. Stacy, what's going on from Kansas? You're not in Kansas anymore. Dewan from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Great to see you. Let's see who else we got. Lisa Spartan Leaguer from Southern California. Great to see you. From the ATL, Noah. Whoop, whoop. Good to see you. Timothy, Northeast Wyoming. David is carbo loading right now, getting ready because we're going to have a massive lift tonight. This is going to be some in-depth stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Angela's joining from the Big Easy tonight. David, do you know where the Big Easy is?
That'd be New Orleans, right?
Yes, or as we say, Nolans.
That's how you say because you got a backwards hat on.
That's right, and I'm a local. I'm actually not a local. I've never been to New Orleans, actually. Let's see here. You have? How was it?
Once for a BP con, I think we had there, and once for Keller Williams family reunion event, and it's kind of nice. I mean, I didn't see any like the problematic areas. But it was definitely different. Like Louisiana is a different ballgame than California for sure.
Yeah, definitely not in California. What about Zachary from SEMO? Do you know what that is?
No, where's that?
You know Zachary. I'm assuming it's Southeast Missouri.
Oh, he's Missouri. That's right.
Yeah. So I had to put. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't know it was Zach, though. That's the only way I figured it out.
There is a trend of taking the first two letters of two words and combining them together. Noticed that. Like there's a lot of Somas, which is south of Market.
Oh, okay.
Or in Denver, they do that a lot. They have the Rhino District, which is like, I don't remember what it was, but the first two letters are R-I and N-O.
Well, they got it from us, NorCal and SoCal, right? We kind of started that trend. I'd at least like to think I did.
Speaking of trends, let me ask you, Kyle. At what age is it no longer acceptable to text letters instead of full words when communicating? Such as, are you okay? Or you are.
It depends on the context. Okay. Are you talking to a client or are you talking to, your BFF?
11-year-old son.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Well, yeah, probably not a client, but still, like, at what age when you see that, do you think, like, this has to be a teenager that I'm talking to? I'm just curious what the thoughts are in the chat. Like, is that okay always? Can you be 50 years old and texting things like, can you go number 2 the store? Or is that not okay? Let me know on YouTube in the comments. Is there an age where this is no longer acceptable?
Yeah, I'm not seeing. Let's see. Mickey says movie time. I love that. Dewan says, how do you text bored and heavenly equipped? Don't know.
That's a
I'm
good
not seeing anything
there. But I believe we know Dewan. That's probably Dewan from Masters Commission, I think.
Is that Dewan? Are you that Dewan that we know?
When you're no longer a teen, from Eric Brown. First off, I trust Eric Brown's opinion because his last name's a color. I feel like that makes you very solid. If I stood next to Eric, we would look like camouflage.
Yes, that very well be it.
Yeah, people aren't commenting on this. Maybe they're afraid because they do it too.
Okay, we got one. Yeah, Eric was the only one that said when you're no longer a teen. So we'll see. So yeah, I'm excited to jump into tonight's topic, David. We're actually going to be talking a little bit about FedNow and the end of financial freedom. Have you been following that at all? And what FedNow is?
No, but this sounds like the kind of thing I would like. Have I been following it? Just didn't know the name of it.
Yeah, so basically you've heard of things like Zelle, you've heard of things like Venmo, right? Basically, it's a quick way to send money, an easy way to send money. Well, basically the way that this is working is now we are getting to a point where the Fed has literally stepped in and said, we're going to create this easy payment system.
Oh.
And we're going to let all the banks use it. And so there's a lot
scary
floating around. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on.
They're trying to knock out Venmo and PayPal and all of these private entities. That's one of the first steps to creating a digital currency then, if that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are afraid of. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that. And then also, in addition to that, we are going to be taking your guys' questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop here on the bottom. Let me think. I got to find it here. Where is this dang? Here it is. Basically, people are going to come in if you guys want, and we're going to have you guys let us know what your question is or what question you have. I already saw some people typing in some questions, but I don't know if you guys know this, but you can actually come in and ask your question to David live here on the chat. So this is a great opportunity to come in and get that question answered. So last week we actually had some really good discussions, had some people come in with some really good questions and good participation. So we're looking to do that again tonight as well. Dewan says you didn't get the space music drop. I know we had the space music on last time. We're kind of just changing it up. We like to change it up every once in a while, and it's kind of fun.
Does that mean we forgot to put it on because I was late?
Yeah, a little bit. And I tried to do a bit of a different music tonight because, you know, we got to change it up. I also wanted to see yeah, I kind of wanted to see what people think because, you know, we're talking about the Fed, the government starting this payment thing, right? And there's a little bit of a conspiracy theory around that. So I kind of thought, you know, we could do something like this where we go, the Fed now, is this the end of financial freedom? And then having something, and then, but having something kind of like this playing.
Is that the Twilight Zone?
Yeah. Is that what you would kind of use for a conspiracy theory? What would you use?
Conspiracy theory? Twilight Zone kind of fits there. But let us know in the comments. Is there another tune that you think of when you think of maybe like an alien sounding thing? Probably like the sound of that you would think that the beam was coming down to suck somebody up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That possibly. Although it's funny that okay, so I sent Kyle I don't know if it was a meme, but it was like a short video, a reel of dolphins swimming in a wave, a paddleboarder swimming into the wave, into incoming dolphins, and it jumps out of the ocean, turns to the side, crushes the dude off his paddleboard, and just keeps swimming, which I thought was hilarious. And I thought to myself, if somebody came back from the beach and said, dude, we saw the most incredible thing. A dolphin jumped out of the water, smashed into a paddleboarder. Nothing else happened. Like, it's not like they were all jumping and this person got into the way. It looked intentional. I would say you're full of it. I just wouldn't believe it. Right. But now that we have video, you're like, holy cow, I can't write that off. That actually happened. I think what I told you, Kyle, was like, if someone said they saw that and I didn't have video proof, I'd say there's no way a dolphin would be swimming through the water, purposely jump up and smash into a person on a paddle cord. Okay, so Lost saw the same one and also laughed. I laughed at that for a good 4 minutes. Just watching it, like, it doesn't even go with its nose because it could get hurt. It literally like jumps and turns its body to the side like a football player making a tackle, like hit with the shoulder, not your head. And I'm wondering how much of the alien stuff might be similar. Like, people have been talking about it. We call them conspiracy theorists. Now we have video proof of this stuff, and we can't. It got kind of quiet, right? So
Mhm.
that's funny that we talk about conspiracy theories, but now the alien thing, those people don't sound as crazy as what they once did.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of these conspiracies are actually starting out and being found out to be true, which is just absolutely crazy. So and I'm liking this too, alien or Dracula music. That'd be a good idea, Ken. I like that. Some kind of alien sound or so maybe next time we'll try to see what we can find. So just as a reminder for those of you guys that are hanging out here watching tonight, send a text message to the number below 833-777-0309, and you can actually come in and watch live and get your opportunity to come in and chat. We actually have a special guest who actually has a question, is going to be here in studio, that's going to be asking their question live here to David. So we already have one guest lined up coming up here in a little bit. But with that, I think we should get started with the analysis of the first video. This is actually put out by a YouTube channel called The Plain Bagel. And they're going to be coming in talking a little bit about FedNow and the conspiracy theory. This is about a 15-minute video, David. So if you need me to pause it at any point, just let me know. So let me get this going and we'll have some fun with it.
The Federal Reserve just launched its FedNow service, a new instant payment platform that promises to bring money transfers in the United States into the 21st century. And yet, there are some online calling FedNow the first step towards a dystopian future of government surveillance and control in the United States. So, quite the contrast. You see, while a lot of news about FedNow has been pretty unremarkable, you might not have even heard about it, there are people online who worry that it will increase the government's ability to track transactions and even freeze bank accounts, with some even suggesting that they might do so for something as minute as, say, liking a post that's critical of the government. But there is a lot of misinformation and speculation being spread on TikTok, YouTube videos, and online posts around what this service is, what it will allow the government to do, and whether it's really just a CBDC or central bank digital currency in disguise. And I think a lot of it really stems from a misunderstanding of how things currently operate, because if you have a better understanding of that, you'll see that FedNow isn't really a seismic shift in what the Federal Reserve will be doing. So in this video, I'll provide those details to explain how things currently operate, what FedNow is and how that sits in the picture, why people keep bringing up Ripple, a cryptocurrency that skyrocketed this week leading up to the launch of FedNow, and why, while it's important to be diligent with a new service like this, why the most egregious claims are really wild speculations with not a whole lot of merit behind them. Before I jump into that, first, a word from our sponsor, the Federal Reserve. That's a joke. Please wait. Let's start from the beginning. What exactly is FedNow? Well, in short, it's a new platform that will allow financial institutions, namely banks and credit unions, to transfer money between one another in mere seconds, almost instantly, tackling a problem that really shouldn't exist in the modern age, which is that it takes a heck of a long time to send money around. As you might know, payments and transfers like your payroll, bill payments, and even transfers between friends can take days to settle, meaning that while you might see the amount leave your account right away, it can often have a lag of time before it actually enters the recipient's account and is usable by them. Something that's made even worse by operating hours, weekends, and banking holidays. Now, there are some methods for sending money faster, such as a wire transfer, which is same day, but that is often quite costly to customers. Banks may offer alternative systems like Zelle, which for my fellow Canadians is the equivalent to Interac, that will allow faster money transfers between peers. But those have limited use cases and typically cap the amount of money you can actually send in a day. And there are alternatives outside of banking, such as money transmitters like Venmo, who offer digital wallets that let you, again, transfer money between other digital wallets and even buy stuff using that money. But it faces similar restrictions. And if you want to send that money to your bank account, it will, again, often take a few days, charging a fee if you want an instant transfer. And it all makes for a pretty tedious and frustrating process. With the worst part being that there are countries out there who don't have to deal with that. India, for example, is a leader in real-time payments and transfers. And even countries like Nigeria have employed similar processes within their financial system, allowing people to send and receive money within seconds. So America, which has always been a leader in financial markets, has actually been a laggard when it comes to real-time payments and transfers. But that all appears to be changing now with FedNow. Here's how it works. Let's say person A is looking to buy inventory for their business from business B. So they go on their credit union or bank's app and initiate a transfer. The payment will be quickly screened by their respective institution, and a payment message will be sent to the Federal Reserve's FedLine network, a current network that has more than 10,000 participants on it, that FedNow will be operating over. The payment message will be instantly validated and passed along to the recipient's institution. And upon confirmation, FedNow will debit and credit the master accounts of the respective institutions and notify them accordingly. In other words, because the Federal Reserve is the bank of the banks, it'll be able to settle things at that master account level, at which point the banks themselves can then notify their clients and credit their accounts accordingly, making the funds more or less available immediately, with the entire process expected to take under 20 seconds from start to finish. Best of all, compared to traditional methods, the service is available 24/7, 365, meaning you can finally pay your share of mom's present that you forgot to pay your sibling on Christmas Day. Now, outside of speed and availability, there are a number of other benefits to FedNow as well. The system complies to ISO 20022, which is a global standard that codifies what details need to be included in the payment messaging, making it easier to digitally validate and process the transactions, allowing for that instant settlement. The service also sounds like it's going to be more affordable than some alternatives compared to things like automated clearinghouses, which is how things like payrolls and other EFTs are processed, which can cost upwards of $1. FedNow will cost 4.5 cents per transfer. So obviously pretty cheap. And it will include advanced fraud detection and prevention tools. So great. Now, the first phase of the service is launching this month, with additional features expected to be released later on. But that doesn't mean that these instant transfers will be immediately available. While there are currently 57 early adopters, which includes the likes of JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, the list does exclude some pretty big names like Bank of America and Citigroup. On top of that, companies will actually need to build their own interfaces for FedNow services, with FedNow itself actually just being a foundation for building money transfer services on top of the likes of bill payments and account-to-account transfers. So some of those services might not be available immediately, but people are expecting a pretty quick uptake of this. The service does have a receive-only option, meaning that a participant can, rather than doing the full sort of registration, sign up to just be able to receive funds on the platform. Well, again, the service does require that master account. It's intended to be flexible to allow smaller institutions to effectively partner with the larger companies so that they likewise gain access to the FedNow service. And that's really it in a nutshell. It's a instant payment platform. There's not really a whole lot exciting about it, but it does sound like good news at a very broad level. So why are people so concerned about it? Well, like I mentioned, some of these concerns are very valid. For example, one of the big ones that's been highlighted is the risk of fraud. Traditional transfers can be held up to avoid fraud. And if there's any questions or concerns that come up along the way that somehow suggest that this transfer should not be happening, it can usually be reversed and the money sent back to the sender. But you don't have that with an instant payment platform. The transfers are irrevocable. And because the money is available immediately, it can be withdrawn immediately by the recipient. So if you're ever tricked or scammed into sending money to someone, there's not a whole lot that can be done if it's transferred over the FedNow network. On top of that, people are concerned that institutions might not be able to handle instant transfers or payments in the case of, say, bank withdrawals. If you recall with Silicon Valley Bank, it had $42 billion of withdrawals in a single day and had to scramble to raise those funds by loans or selling securities. So you can imagine the problems if those withdrawals would have been instant and the bank had no time to try and raise that money. Although there is currently a cap of $500,000 per transfer, and banks can set further limits on top of that. But it just goes to highlight that there are other considerations here with instant transfers and payments. But those aren't really the concerns that are circulating online. The primary concern is about government abuse. Some don't like the idea that the Federal Reserve, who is supposed to be the steward of the US dollar, that they'll now be offering a service within the market that they're supposed to be a sort of watchdog over. On top of that, there are people who have a number of privacy concerns with the Federal Reserve facilitating the bulk of these transactions, that it will more or less have sole control over these instant payments. and all the data that comes with that. Some are also concerned that because of the close ties between the government and the Federal Reserve, even though their operations are technically separate, that the government might access this information. Then there are the claims about the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. CBDC is a digital currency that, much like cryptocurrencies, lives entirely online, can allow you to transact without using a financial institution per se. But unlike cryptocurrency, which relies on the blockchain for that ledger, the currency is issued and managed by the central bank, with some fearing that the sort of structure gives the central bank, and by extension the government, too much data and control over people's finances, with some going so far as to believe that this truly is the first step towards the US becoming a surveillance state. With that concern not really being helped by the fact that China is really leading the charge here for CBDCs, launching its own digital yuan in 2022. But these fears have led people to speculate that FedNow is a sort of Trojan horse that will lead to the eventual release of a US dollar CBDC, with the idea that it will first come to dominate the instant payment infrastructure by forcing institutions to adopt it, or just squeezing out all of the competition by offering a cheap and convenient method for transferring money, only to then use that position, that dominance, to force people to adopt the digital currency, which some going so far as to highlight a recent SEC lawsuit against Ripple in December of 2020 as evidence of the government trying to crack down against alternatives to the FedNow service. So yeah, people have some pretty dire concerns about the FedNow implementation. And again, I don't want to discourage people from raising questions and concerns about these sort of implementations. Dare I say, the government has had a history of overreaching in the past, and it's important to consider that when you see a big change like this. But when it comes to these master plans about a CBDC and concerns about Jerome Powell seeing whether you watch the Barbie movie or Oppenheimer first in theaters, a lot of it really is based on wild speculation with very little evidence to support it. And again, is really based on a misunderstanding about how things currently operate and how FedNow differs from it. Because one of the biggest points as to why some of these claims are really unjustified is that the Federal Reserve already processes a good chunk of transfers in the United States. Most wire transfers in the US are done through FedWire, the Federal Reserve's wire transfer service, which processed $1 quadrillion worth of transfers in 2022 alone. Same goes for electronic funds transfers, which use that automated clearinghouse system, with the primary provider being the Federal Reserve via its Fed ACH service, which processed $40 trillion worth of transfers in 2022. And by many accounts, FedNow is really just an upgrade to Fed ACH. And while that does come with more capabilities, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Fed will be processing more transactions, as in a way it will cannibalize what it's already processing. Secondly, there's really no evidence that institutions would be forced to use FedNow, or even that it will become the only provider of real-time transfers. It is an opt-in program and doesn't punish people for not using it. And while there could arguably be a day where the Fed has so much dominance that it's able to force people to use its own platform, that doesn't even really align with what we've seen in the past. FedWire and Fed ACH already face private competition from the likes of CHIPS and Electronic Payments Network, with these networks likewise processing trillions of dollars of transfers a day. There also haven't really been any moves to crack down on those.
All right, I think we're at a good stopping point here to really have a good understanding and summary of what this gentleman is talking about. So a few things. Number one, I just got to say the comments are very, very, very quiet tonight. I don't know if you guys are out driving around. I don't know if you're just so into David's handsome looks with his rugged beard just coming out, but let us know in the comments or in the chat there what you're thinking about this specific topic. Yes, Ken was right. He does know how to pronounce a boat. He's from Canada. You can sort of tell. Thank you for the comments coming in. That's good because this is an interactive show. We want to hear what you guys have to say. Let me summarize really briefly what he's talking about. So the Fed is coming out with this new transaction system called FedNow, and it's a way to instantaneously send money, and it's meant to go across to all the financial institutions. Now, you may be thinking, well, Kyle, there's already things like that existing, right? There's things like Zelle, right? Almost everybody's bank, Capital One, Chase, all the big banks, Wells Fargo, they have Zelle already. So why do we need FedNow, right? We have things like PayPal. We have things like Venmo. Well, this is basically the Fed's version of that exact system, and it's meant to be even more instantaneous, right? A lot of you guys know how ACH wire transfers work. Sometimes they can take 2 to 3 business days, right? Or you have wire cutoffs. And this is meant to be a 24/7, 365 instantaneous way of sending money. And it's supposed to be cheaper as well, and all done through the government or through the Fed, who really has a close relationship with the government. So obviously, anytime the Fed or the government gets involved, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, or there's a lot of fears, or there's a lot of questions. Some of them maybe like really on one side that are like just way off, like UFOs and aliens, which are not so off anymore, or they just might be like real concerns, right? Like, hey, what are we going to do about fraud? What are we going to do about, reversing payments that were accidentally made and that kind of thing? So overall, there's some good questions about this, but there's also some people concerned that anytime you get the Fed or the government involved in something big like this, there could be an overreach with the government. And so that's what a lot of people are worried about and concerned about. And his conclusion, this gentleman's conclusion basically is, hey, listen, it's probably just an upgrade to the system we already have in place. It's got new features, it's got quicker features, probably more mapping personalities. But in general, all the stuff it would know about you is stuff that's already out there anyway. So let's go and see really quick what the comments have to say, and then I'll throw it over to you, David. So Dora says, FedNow sounds a bit creepy, kind of like Every Step You Take song by Police. Yeah, sounds nice, but yeah, exactly. They're kind of watching every single thing you do. Adriana says she's listening but running errands. Thanks for letting us know in the chat. That's really good. He had the most annoying voice. Okay, I'm sorry for that, Noah. There we go. There's our boy Troy Fast saying, 2 good dudes on this show. You're a good dude, Troy Fast. Great basketball player, and just an overall better human and a great family. Good to see you, Troy. Rose says it's scary that the transactions aren't reversible. That is scary. But I think it's the same sort of like on other things too. I think some things like Venmo and Zelle are not super reversible either. So you just got to be smart and don't fall for tricks, but it probably will happen. There probably will be some fraud along the way, unfortunately. Brett says, what happens when they create their own coin and destroy the dollar? That is absolutely one of the questions and something worth talking about. Darren says, sounds like the stuff going around about the potential new tenant laws that Biden administration is trying to enact. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point. And then last but not least, Joe says, thinking about whether I should keep my crypto, expecting it to skyrocket. That's what some people are thinking, right? Especially with the government sort of getting in control with all of this. So David, kind of what are just a couple initial thoughts that you have on this? And then we're going to bring in Zach, who has a couple questions too. Oh, you're on mute there.
Well, you know how my brain works. I look for the threats and what could go wrong before I consider the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll probably have a short-term benefit of just easier to transfer money. You don't have to set up a Venmo account or a PayPal account or use Zelle, which will unfortunately knock out a lot of these really big businesses that have provided a service that makes transferring money really easy. At a certain point, it would be very easy for the government to say it's illegal to use anything other than the government's thing, and they'll come up with some excuse like it's a threat to national security. These companies are owned by China, or like, I don't know, they'll come up with anything. So now you have to use that. And now there's no way that you can avoid how much money you have. They're going to be able to see everything, and they'll come up with some AI functioning bot that will look at your spending patterns and your deposit patterns and figure out this person has income that they're not claiming in taxes. We need to tax more of this person. Like, you won't be able, like, it'll be a way that they just take more money from the public, and you got to fight them to try to get it back. Right? They may even start taxing like 1099 people. Like, every time you get paid by a customer, they take 40%. And then at the end of the year, when you fill out your taxes, then they maybe give you back your money if you do it the right way, which is, I mean, it's obviously a bummer, right? I saw something in the news that California is trying to pass a bill that in certain cities, you're monitored by, I don't know what it was, like satellites or something. And if you go 5 miles over the speed limit, they can get your license plate and immediately send you a ticket in the mail. Cop doesn't have to see you, right? Like, that's rough when you're being monitored so closely. Anything that you do, you don't get away with it. It's like, instead of the government existing to serve us, it's switching around that we exist to serve the government, right? Instead of a bunch of people voting and saying, is this something that we want? It could just be forced on you. Now, again, that's all the negative. There could be some positives that come out of this thing as well. But I can see a world where not only are they monitoring and they know and they control when you can spend money, but they have data that shows what you're spending it on, what type of companies you're buying from, right? And let's say that whatever that company is on either side of the political aisle is on the wrong side at that time. Well, if you want to say like this person's bad because they bought Bud Light instead of Coors Light, or this person's bad because they bought Lululemon instead of Nike Fit or whatever, you're not allowed to buy those clothes, or you get branded as a person who's bad because they drink this beer. We see how common this is already becoming, that you get labeled by whatever if you're a Jason Aldean fan, you're going to be labeled a certain way. If you're a Lil Wayne fan, you're going to get labeled a certain way. Like, you may like the song but hate the lyrics, but just listen to it. Well, they're going to know what songs you're listening to. They're going to know what songs you're downloading, right? Like, and when that information gets made public, can you imagine if every single text you've ever sent, every single song you ever listened to, every single like website you ever visited was something that people could go get information about and then paint whatever picture about you that they wanted to paint? Like, not one of us would come out of that thing looking good.
No, never. And it could easily be portrayed in a certain way too. So, like, do you think like that's your black hat perspective, or as Lisa says, the black cat perspective? Do you go ahead?
No, I just think that was funny that happened.
Yeah, it's a little inside joke for the people that were here last week. But like, with that perspective, like, how much of that is actually true and how much is that feasible in your opinion? Like, how much do you think that's really going to happen?
I'm almost guaranteed that would happen. I don't know that it'll happen in 5 years, but I don't see any way that won't happen, because you can't think of a time where the government ever took power from someone and gave it back, right? It tends to work like a ratchet, like ratchets go one direction, they click, but then you can't go the other way. That's what power tends to be like, right? Like, you don't ever see a one group of people that complains that they don't have enough power. When they get a bunch, that you don't see them be like, okay, that was too much, let me give some back to you. They just justify why they should be able to keep that power, and they take it away from someone else. And they sometimes become twice the tyrant as the people that they complained about. So I think it's inevitable that this is going to happen. It's not going to be good. You'll see, I believe, and it's already like cancel culture. I think people will look back, like when we look back at the 40s and we're like, oh man, like this was going on in the 40s. They're going to look back at 2020 and say like, man, can you remember, like, this was the very beginnings of cancel culture. Wasn't it cute? Like, so-and-so said a bad thing and they lost their job. But in the future, it's going to be like more like China, where if you say something that goes, or North Korea, you say something that goes against the established law, you're a criminal, right? And I know this sounds crazy, but like, literally, whoever the last leader of North Korea was, it was like Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il or whatever those names I'm not going to get right. When he died, people were forced to cry in the streets. They were forced to cry. And if you were found not crying or not crying enough, you went to jail. I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, it can get to that point when somebody gets that much power, which is why the founding fathers never wanted that to happen. They wanted the power to be dispersed amongst people, spread it apart as much as you can. There's always going to be power clashes, but if it's roughly even, it can only get so bad. When it moves into where one side has way, way, way too much power, that's when the worst side of human nature sort of shows itself. And you see that happening in some of the countries like China with the Uyghurs. And I mean, like, lots of places where people don't get treated well when they don't have even power. So I don't think that's right around the corner for America, but I think we'd be silly if we didn't think it was happening. One of the reasons that I'm such a proponent for building wealth through real estate is it gives you your own little fiefdom. This is your little thing to control, right? How well you manage your property, how well you keep up your property. It's kind of a microcosm of an entire government, but you get to be the prime minister of it. And if you do a terrible job and you're a slumlord, eventually you're going to lose your property. Your tenants are going to move out. The property's going to fall apart, right? You made a little bit of money in the beginning and you saved some cash like socialism, and then later it fell apart. But if you do a good job, you price your unit correctly, you take care of it, you attract good tenants, you buy in the right areas, you upkeep the property, it will sustain you and grow in value for the rest of your days. And then when you get that down, you can add another one, right? It's a little thing that you get power over, which is what I like to see, is all the little individuals getting to have some power, not one people having it and then spreading it out amongst the populace. So I don't think this is going to be like an immediate, oh, now that this happened, it's all over. It's just a tiny little cut, and you get 1,000 of them and people can bleed out.
What are your thoughts? This is kind of a little bit of an offshoot, but what are your thoughts on like doomsday prepping and homesteading and that kind of stuff? Because that's actually there's a big movement of people moving that direction right now.
I know. And I look at it all the time. I get that same fear response. Like, where would I bug out to if this is a problem? In fact, I bought what I call a bug out cabin from a guy that owns the Atlanta Hawks. And he had a place, because he lived in Atlanta, where if the city burned down or the power grid went out, boom, he takes his family, he heads out there to this cabin that's up in the middle of the mountains, and he has solar panels. He had all kinds of crazy stuff set up. Like, he had a cellar set up so that if there's like, I think it was like a nuclear disaster where you can't leave, there's you can like live in this little cellar, and there's I don't know what you'd call, like an elevator shaft that goes up to the next level that he could pay people to come drop food and water down for him and his family. Like, those people are going to get exposed to it, but they're going to be safe, right? It was like a crazy little property. And I understand that fear that you have. I just think it's stupid. Like, if you do, let's say you run out to the hills somewhere and you're like, all right, we're good. I got canned corn that can last me for 7 years. Like, you think starving people aren't going to find you and take your stuff? Like,
I've
when
seen
they're just
episodes of The Walking Dead.
You see, is that what happens in The Walking Dead?
Yeah, exactly. It's a zombie apocalypse.
Okay, so yeah, I don't. Human beings, most people that are watching this have only experienced humanity in general from like when everything's good. We have a social contract that's unspoken. You know, you don't step on my shoes. If you do, you say you're sorry so that I don't step on yours. When you're in law enforcement, you see a completely different side of human nature. You see how quickly we go from being civil people to absolute animals. And you see that when people get into that crazed mindset where they're pulling people out of cars and stomping on them and burning things, like how other people, like a regular person that just walks around at Walmart with you, all of a sudden just goes like, yeah, and just jumps into it, doesn't even know why. It's very hard to describe that mental state and how easily people just go right into it, which most of us haven't experienced. You know, like that movie, The Purge, kind of explains that. But I've been in those riots that we call like protests, right? I've seen the wrong race of person trying to drive their car through that group and stops and getting pulled out and just beaten, right? Like really, really scary things that can happen. So I guess what I'm getting at is if you have one of those, what did you call it? Like doomsday prepping situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. People will just find it and take your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they will. They're going to try to overtake it. That's exactly what happens in The Walking Dead. No spoilers, but basically you see little tribes are formed, and then one tribe tries to overtake the other tribe because they have more resources. They have more canned corn. They have more food or more water access, like that kind of stuff. So, let's do this. We're going to bring on Zach, who actually has a question around this topic. And for those of you that don't know, Zach is actually a David Green retreat member. So he's now part of our family and a good friend of ours, here to come back and hang out. If you want to come on live, just like Zach is, make sure you text the number below. We've got a quiet audience tonight, but you can come in, you can talk about this topic. You can ask about your business. You can ask about whatever is your struggle or whatever is your question or whatever that thing you might need help with. But Zach, thank you for joining us, and good to see you again, my friend. Tell me what you got.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be back on here.
You are the man.
Yeah, so I heard about the FedNow program, I don't know, probably sometime earlier this week or last week, and I was Googling it a little bit, and yeah, just the thought that they're having their own thing, I just think it's a little scary. Like you mentioned, Zelle, PayPal, it's like they already have all these other platforms to kind of do the same thing, but I guess Zelle and all the other ones are kind of like on the weekends, where this says it's 24/7. But yeah, it just makes me wonder if they're, I guess, trying to attack the crypto, make crypto look even worse. And like Joe said, he's worrying about if he should sell his crypto or not. I think now it's time to accumulate everything I'm seeing, all the whales and stuff, the big holders of Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're just buy right now. Because with the halving coming up next year, I like what I'm seeing. So yeah, it's just a little scary.
So what's your question?
Yeah. Mainly I say, I don't know, I didn't really come on here with I guess a question in mind. I just kind of wanted to come on and kind of discuss it and kind of, it's like, I know at the retreat I asked David I know he has a little bit of crypto. Like, do you have any, or do you see this being a deterrent to the crypto industry? Or I don't know how much you guys know about that.
I see it going two ways. One, I think crypto becomes a way that very wealthy people trade because they are like, we're off the grid. We don't want the government knowing what we're doing. And so if they have a social contract that one of those cryptocurrencies is something that they will all value, which I've sort of bet on Bitcoin, not very big. It's a very small bet, but that's the one I like the most just because it seemed harder to replicate, that it will have some value, but it would not be difficult for the government to come in and say crypto is illegal, right? We don't want another Sam Friedman thing. So the SEC is now going to regulate. We're going to consider them to be an equity or a commodity, no longer a property, which I think is what they're classified as right now. At least Bitcoin was. So you're not allowed to hold crypto. That is now, what's the word? Contraband. And if you're going to try to trade in it, it's like, it's illegal. What do you do? Like it wouldn't be a hard thing for them to come in and say no more. Not saying that's going to happen, but I think it would be one of those two things. It's either going to be that, or it's going to be a thing that a specific subgroup of people, probably wealthy people, will gravitate towards.
Okay. Yeah.
Pick that apart. Tell me what you think I'm wrong about.
No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I've seen memes all the time where that, because the Bitcoin supply is limited, like you said, where there's only 21 million. And so, and I know BlackRock, they filed a application for a Bitcoin ETF. And I saw a thing where they were talking about if BlackRock went and bought every single Bitcoin on the exchanges and all the available supply, essentially be 0.3% of their total assets under management. And so just, I mean, even as decentralized as Bitcoin is, just a big player like that, they went and bought it all up, then it's essentially a centralized thing because they'd have such a big portion of it.
Well, that's going to make it more valuable to everybody else, right? Because it's harder to get.
Right. But I mean, if someone has such a large position of that, so I guess they just essentially take that supply off the market. And like you said, that the
value of everything else goes up because they've reduced supply. Like I've mentioned this before in these things, understanding supply and demand. Most people, when they're new, they function on demand. They're like, how much rent can I get? How many tenants are in this area? It's not wrong to focus on demand. What's the price of this cryptocurrency? It just isn't what I see the really wealthy people focusing on. They think about demand, but first we think about supply. The really good investors don't say, where will I get the highest cash on cash return in year one? That is how amateurs think, because amateurs usually make decisions based off of an immediate need. Like, think about everyone that's ever fallen for a get rich quick scheme, right? If they didn't need to get rich quickly, they probably never would have done it. It's literally when you're in a position that you're like, I have a big problem right now and I have to fix it, that you make a bad decision, right? Relationship, like, what am I going to do? I can't leave my boyfriend because I need a place to live, but I don't like him anymore. You meet a new guy, you're like, let me jump in with him. Those usually don't work out to be great decisions, like if you had waited a little bit longer. Same thing with the person who falls for some kind of like a Ponzi scheme or something. When you're in a place that you have to get out of pain right away, negative reinforcement is what we call that, the removal of adverse stimuli, you don't make good decisions, and that's how people get fooled. Wealthy people don't worry about the ROI in year one because they don't care about year one. They want to know for the future, right? So they're going to go buy properties in the best locations possible where the rent's going to be the worst for the price. It makes no sense in year one why they would ever do that, yet they do it. And then 20 years later, they've got generational wealth from one property that they bought in Manhattan or on South Miami or Malibu or 90210 somewhere. That's how they think. So I like to think about supply being constricted first. If BlackRock is buying all of this Bitcoin. You're eliminating a huge amount of the supply. You're also sort of stabilizing how valuable it is, because as long as BlackRock is considered to be smart, smart people will follow them. That will make the price of Bitcoin go up. So, like, how long ago did they buy it, Zach?
Well, they haven't bought it. They haven't bought any. They just applied for an ETF that they could sell on on the market or whatever. But I saw a clip when they applied for that, where they said if they wanted to go and buy it all, they could.
If they did, the value of Bitcoin would go up really quickly.
Yeah,
because there's less of it out there. So I just want people to apply those same principles to where they're buying. And I feel like all my contemporaries, all the other influencers that are out there, they don't want you thinking that way, because you have to delay gratification. And why would you ever go pay them 10 grand or 20 grand or 30 grand to learn how to do this if you had to wait 10 years before it paid off?
Okay.
So think about like, what's that? Yeah, it's not as sexy at all. And there is an urgency. Like, they target the people I need to get out of my W-2 right now. I'm tired of this. And they get you to spend $20,000 because in that moment they can sell you on a dream. But your question about like what's going to happen with crypto, I wouldn't buy any crypto that I feel like they can inflate the supply. I wouldn't buy anything that I feel like they can inflate the supply, because supply is that important, right? Think about things, Zach, just off the top of your head. What are things that human beings have traditionally considered valuable?
I mean, like real assets, commodities, stuff that they can hold, touch, kind of keep.
Like what? Like, not everything. They don't consider plastic valuable. So what are some real things or commodities that people consider valuable?
Like gold, silver, oil,
diamonds.
Stuff that's harder.
Even oil's not really valuable. It's just useful. It's needed, right? But like, no one keeps a bunch of oil in their backyard because it's going to go up in value. But they will. Diamonds, will put those in the safe, right? Because they're all of those things. What do they have in common? They're hard to produce more of. It is very hard to get diamonds. It is very hard to get pearls. It takes a long time for them to grow. It is very hard to mine gold out of the earth. It's expensive and it takes a long time to get it, which means it's difficult to inflate the supply. Like, our subconscious naturally knows if something is harder to get, it is worth more. And so we've ascribed value to shiny rocks just because they're hard to make more of. It's kind of ridiculous. That's how bad people think about what's rare. So if you can get a house that is rare and it's hard to get more of them in an area where everyone wants to be and you can't build more of it, and it's useful, what do you know? You've hit the trifecta of all the things that people want that make something worth more, which is why it shouldn't be a surprise that real estate goes up over time. And I'm not a homer for real estate. I'm not making this up because I like real estate. I like real estate because I understand economics, because I understand what makes things more valuable. So if you're going to be trading in crypto and you're going to be investing in crypto, I don't know, for the short term, man, maybe you could you're smart. You know this stuff. You can get in, you can get out. Go ahead and play that game. If you're talking about long-term buy and hold, I would only hold crypto that was very, very, very difficult or impossible to inflate. The minute that, like, I don't know, if Ethereum is easily inflated and it starts to go up in value, and they just print a whole, or not print, but they produce a whole bunch more numbers of for a blockchain that make more of it, it's now not going to be valuable.
Yes, I've seen a lot of cryptos actually where they'll have a burn effect where they'll lower the supply like every few months, or burn so much
because they understand this. But see, they can still manipulate it though, Zach.
Yeah.
If they can burn it and they can make more, you're at the mercy of whoever manages the crypto, which means you're not the captain of your own ship. The government can't take housing away. I mean, I guess they could. That would be horrific if that happened, but that's much less likely to happen than someone just getting rid of crypto. And I don't want to see like anybody put too much of their net worth in any asset that someone else has that much control over, right? If they're like, oh, like what's a famous Babe Ruth rookie cards? They're really valuable. Let's make a bunch more of them. And so they go print a bunch of Babe Ruth rookie cards, right? And then they're like, oh, we made too many of them. Let's burn up what some of these are. It would be very difficult to expect a Babe Ruth rookie card to continue going up in value if you could manipulate it. Literally, that's what makes a baseball card valuable. Everybody knows about it, so there's demand because we all know who Babe Ruth is and Mickey Mantle, and there are not a lot of them. It's crazy how simple it is when you understand these patterns of how human beings make decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Same exact concept. But
all right, what are you thinking, Kyle?
Yeah, I think this is actually really good information. I think the scarcity is key. right? And so it doesn't matter if you're in the world of real estate, if you're in the world of cryptocurrency, whatever it is. I think that's really where people are going to go. And so, Zach, I like how you think, and I like your position on a lot of this stuff. What's kind of your takeaway after this discussion? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I guess it's more kind of like wait and see. Like is the FedNow, is it going to be like its own app, or is it going to be like kind of integrated with all the banks and stuff like that? Like with Zelle, where I can just log in and send money?
Yeah, I mean, they probably will eventually have their own app. But from the research that I've looked into, it's looking like it's just going to be integration between all the banks, right? So there'll be kind of that middleman like you see with Zelle and like you see with Venmo. And then eventually it'll be its own app, similar to right now. You could download the Zelle app and then just send money wherever you want. So,
okay. Yeah, so I'm because I've seen too where you had to like pay each month for FedNow, whereas some the other ones that are free, it's like, why would they want to pay when they go use Zelle or PayPal or something and just send money at no cost? Or
yeah, I think it depends on. I think it really depends on how many transactions you're doing. For some people, it might make more sense if you do the subscription method as opposed to like a per transaction model or something like that. So I think they do have like varying levels in the way it's going to end up. But either way, I think what David is saying is true. It's going to move that direction, whether it's through FedNow or through something else. And so we just need to make sure we're preparing ourselves for that and controlling the things that we have in our world and our environment right now, whether that be through decentralized stuff like cryptocurrency or through real estate, right? Being extremely smart and investing in the right asset classes where you have scarcity, where there's going to be a demand and a functional use for it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, like I said, I'll be curious to see if this kind of pushes more people into the field of crypto or kind of looking that way. Cause I know there are coins in particular, people want more privacy where they can transact in those, and like Bitcoin's more public, and some of these other ones, they kind of hide the addresses and who you're sending it to. So
yeah, and you have to be careful because a lot of times the government will step in and they say, we're trying to protect you. We want to make sure that everything's okay. Cryptocurrency is the Wild West. And there have been a lot of people that have like joined and spent money on or invested money, and they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because they thought they were investing in something that's safe. Right. And so that's the opportunity that the government or the Fed or whoever can often look into and say, well, yeah, we'll come in and we'll make sure we take care of things. But you have to be super, super wise and savvy about what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah. So every time I see the government get their hands on something, it seems takes twice as long and costs twice as much in the end. So
yeah, and that's not because the government is evil. And this is where I have an unpopular opinion people get mad at me for. It's because people are evil. Yeah. The government is not this like esoteric behind the scenes entity that has its own thoughts. It's just a bunch of us. And if you give any of us a bunch of power, we tend to be selfish and think about how can I do the least work possible to get the biggest payoff possible. And then we start justifying why we're doing that. That is what human beings do, whether they're the CEO of a company or they're Bernie Madoff running a Ponzi scheme, or they're the Chinese government controlling their people, or the North Korean government. The leaders are going to eat good, and they're going to force other people and tell them how to think so that they can get their needs met rather than earning respect. And the people at the bottom are going to have no control over how that human beings do this. And it doesn't matter what form it takes. We frequently criticize the government, but it's more like the aspect of human beings that is selfish will express itself when they have that much power. So here's my message to everybody who is listening to us still. You will always be able to create wealth. It will be much harder when it's not capitalism you're trying to create it through. If my fears come true and the government is able to control every single element of where money is transferred from person to person, they can increase taxes however they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. If they decide that you make $400,000 a year and that's way too much money and they want to take 80% of it, you can't stop them. They just pass the law. They take the money out of your own account that they have access to. It's very difficult to buy real estate. Okay. we're in a form right now where there's a lot of tax advantages. If you buy real estate, you can shelter income. You can use cost segregation studies. You can use the depreciation of the assets. You can earn money as an entrepreneur in a business and have write-offs coming from that. You don't have to pay your taxes at the end of the year, so you can earn interest on that money. It is so much easier right now than what it could be. We all complain about how it used to be better before, but we don't realize how much worse it can get. Now is the time to bust your butt getting as much real estate as you can, working as hard as you can, giving it all that you have to accumulate as much wealth as you can get while we are able. And then if this socialistic future takes over, now is the time to chill and do nothing, because you're not losing anything. Like, if you're going to tax me for 80% of what I make, yeah, I'm not going to work hard anymore. At least not at making money. I'm going to work hard at something else that they can't tax, right? So I'm sounding the alarm, not because I'm a greedy person, not because I think that everybody should have Rolexes and be riding around in sports cars, and I don't care. Okay, it's because now is the time that you can make it. So do everything you can, and then when you can't make it anymore, all the people are going to be sitting around talking about the good old days, and it's not fair. And if I could go back in time, I would have done it. Well, right now we're in that time right
now. Okay, yeah, makes total sense to me. Everything that we're seeing, yeah, especially the talks of with the CBDC. I hope that never comes into fruition, but like you said, I think people get greedy and they'll see that is the way.
Here's the pattern, Zach. Every single time something happens in the world that's scary, the government of every country, not just ours, is going to say, give us a little bit more. Okay. So like the Twin Towers get knocked down. Everyone's scared. Let's create the TSA. Let's look at what people are doing. Did they ever give that power back? No, they didn't. Okay. COVID comes. We all got scared. Everybody has to take a vaccine. We're going to make every other form of immunization illegal. We're going to force you to lock down. We're not going to put it up to a vote and ask people if they want the economy stopped. They just force you to do. People are getting arrested for being out in the middle of the ocean on a paddleboard when they were supposed to be like away from everyone else. They don't give the power back. The next war, the next rumor of a war, the next outbreak, the next depression. Like, let's say that Silicon Valley Bank, that had spread to a lot of other banks, and the banking system collapsed. They would come in and say, this is why we need what was this system called that we just learned about, Kyle?
FedNow.
Yeah, this is why we need FedNow, because this will stop the liquidity of the banking system from ever grinding to a halt, and it will prevent the next Great Depression. Boom, it's happening. It is real. So every single time there is a scare, you will see that the response will be something like this. It's not going to get better. It's just going to keep going down this path. And I can say that confidently because if you watch Ray Dalio's video on the Changing World Order, he describes that every single country that has ever existed in the history of mankind has had the exact same thing happen to their currency. Okay, this is not unique to America. This is how human beings act, and we're ridiculously predictable.
Yep. Yes, I heard a few years ago we were kind of headed the same way as Venezuela has had a thriving oil industry and everything, and then they government got too greedy and now they got hyperinflation.
And it's very predictable because what happens if 80% of the country feels like they deserve more and the 20% is the one producing? What the 80% should do is thank God for the rich 20% that are keeping us all eating, because they're the ones bringing in all the money into the country. They should have been happy, right? Like, you would think if the government's like, look, we're going to give you all your rent paid for, your food paid for, your healthcare paid for, free education. People aren't working at all and they get the benefits of America, that they'd be running around. Let me find some taxpayer and wash his car for him. I'm so grateful that I don't have to. Like, that's what you would think people would. It's not that. It's, well, how come my school is not as good as that school? Well, how come I don't get as much money as they do? Well, how come I'm forced to live in an apartment for free and I don't get my own house? Like, and then you keep giving more. So that lower percentage of the population that isn't making as much controls the vote. They will go. That's what the politicians have to cater to keep getting elected. And so you could blame the politician. You could blame everything. The fact is human nature. People will do what is in their best interest. And if the majority of people are not productive, they are not producing things for the economy, they are not doing the things that make capitalism work, the whole thing will fall apart. And it's happened over and over and over. We as human beings cannot help it. Every time we have an empire that reaches great heights, the very same things happen. We end up collapsing. All of the wealth we built was tied to the currency of the country, which the country is now worth nothing. So neither is the currency. They have to inflate the crap out of it like you're seeing in Venezuela, and boom, poverty. Yeah, we should watch that video on Ray Dalio's what was it?
It'd be fun.
Said it, Kyle.
The changing.
We put it out in the Spartan League, right? Yeah, Changing World Order.
Changing World Order. Yeah.
Yes, I haven't seen
that. Thanks, man.
Yep. Welcome. Thanks for
See you,
having
man.
me.
Good to see you. Absolutely.
next
Keep it up,
stream.
man. Go get out there and hustle.
And make sure you hide from those mosquitoes, bro. I know how big of a deal that is.
Yeah, I'm trying. They're not as bad up here, but they were terrible last weekend.
Zach talked about mosquitoes quite a bit at the retreat that we had.
Yes.
He taught us an entire seminar on mosquito abatement, and mosquito warfare. How to make
He's
sure
always
you
on
win.
the lookout for him. And I'm on the lookout for him now because you taught me all the things about mosquitoes. I'm always freaking out like there might be a mosquito somewhere that I need to keep an eye out for. So
The Malarian warrior.
that's right.
Yep.
All right, brother.
Yep.
See you later, man.
All right. See you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is fun. I think a lot of this conversation is good. We're going to kind of take it a slightly different direction here. We've been focusing a lot on big picture stuff, which is really good. It's really important because we need to be prepared for things like the government taking over. We need to be prepared for things that happen outside of our control, and focusing on things that we can work on within our control. So with that comes the ability to make income, whether you're a real estate agent, a real estate investor, or just a small business owner. So if you guys have questions along that, if you want to ask David a question about building your business, about building your portfolio, about real estate in general, send us a text message below 833-777-0309. We actually haven't had anybody else come in that wants to ask a question. But fortunately for everybody that's still watching, we got 80 people watching right now. We actually have a special guest that's going to come in and ask David some questions specifically around real estate and being a real estate agent. So with that, I'm going to invite my guest here to say hello. This is my wonderful daughter, Catherine. Can you say hi to Uncle David?
Hi, Uncle David.
Hello, Miss Catherine.
Hi.
Your hair looks very nice.
Thank you. My mom did it.
Did she? Do you think she'll do mine?
Maybe if you had some.
So
what are we going to talk about tonight? What question do you have for me?
Well, I have two actually.
Oh,
Go ahead,
okay.
How do you tell people that you are a real estate agent?
How do I tell them?
So yeah, her question is along the lines of, because she was asking me these questions earlier this week. If she were to go get her license, right, and become a real estate agent, how would she go about telling other people that she got her license?
Do you want me to answer that question before you ask me the next one, Catherine?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first thing is you have to make a business card. Do you know what a business card is?
I think so.
Your dad can show you what they are.
Yeah,
Business cards are
with my picture on it.
Oh yeah, I know what those are.
Yeah. Business cards are what realtors who didn't want to get a W-2 job where they do actual work, and instead they wanted to get their license and just drive around and show homes and drink cocktails get to feel important. So we're going to put on like your nicest pantsuit that we could find, maybe get some shiny jewelry and have you cross your arms and turn at a 45-degree angle because that looks like you mean business and you take things serious. And then we're going to make sure that we make it a little bit like purplish or pink. We got to put a little flair with some cursive, pretty writing of your name. And then we have to come up with a cute little slogan like big or small, I sell them all, or making your dreams come true, whatever thing you think would be really good. And then when you meet people, before they even ask anything about you, you're just going to tell them, oh, by the way, I'm a realtor. And you have to say tour because that sounds fancier than saying realtor. Okay. And then you got to complain about all the things that are super hard about your job when really you're probably not selling that many houses anyways, but it makes you feel significant and important because that's easier than actually doing hard things. Right. And the last thing is you're going to hold open houses, which your daddy will teach you how to do. And you have to bring a lot of cheese. Okay. The cheese is super important because that's what, yeah, I know it's crazy, right? But the more cheese you have, the more that you can give people something to do so they don't ask you questions that you don't know the answer to because you didn't study and know anything about the house, right? You just keep giving them cheese so that their mouth is full and they don't want to talk when their mouth is full. And instead, you could just talk about yourself and you can use words like amazing, incredible. Kyle, help me out. What are some of the other adjectives that you'll often hear realtors throw around?
Exquisite.
exquisite, wonderful, adorable. Yes, that's exactly right. You have to use these very big words that make you sound important. And occasionally you'll make a social media post that says something like slay or yes, because realtors are often doing the same type of thing, right?
You left off making TikTok videos for about 4 hours a day.
Oh, you're right, Catherine. Can you practice this with me? Okay, put one of your hands up like this. Now I want you to go like this. Point, 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 point. Right now, just like this. You don't have to say it anymore. This is how realtors make TikTok videos. If you can do that, you can be a realtor.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, I don't think that's true. Because
No? What do you?
She doesn't like cheese.
You don't like cheese? Well, do you like pointing?
Kind of. I like pointing at my brother like that.
Yeah, you do. When you're trying to figure out who's at fault, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What else do you think realtors might do?
I think they need. I think. I'm not sure actually.
Well, they drive in their car a lot, so you have to get a Tesla. Do you like Teslas?
Yes, my dad has one.
Yes, he does. Do you remember where I was when I drove in your Tesla? Do you remember where we went?
Target.
We went to Target, and what did we buy?
A generation doll and this tiny little figurine thingies.
Wow, that's a really good memory. That's exactly right. And we did not buy the generation doll that dresses like a realtor.
No.
Because you have plenty of time to learn how to do that when you get older. Right
Yeah.
now, you can just be a kid.
What do you think about that?
Well,
Sure.
what do you like if not cheese? What can we put out at the open house for people to eat?
I think they need to eat donuts.
Oh, wow. Are you sure you don't want to be a police officer?
Nope.
Because they like donuts.
Well,
Maybe you can get police officers to buy your house by putting out donuts.
Oh yeah, great idea.
Yeah, and they'll pay a lot for the houses because they're not very smart.
So what do you think?
Just kidding. Okay, what is your next question?
That's
Oh, yep. Is this it right here?
Yes. How do you pick what team you're going to be on? Like what person?
That's really good. How do I choose who I'm going to bring on the team?
Yeah, like how do you pick what team you're going to be on?
The agent. How does the agent choose?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good one. Well, Kyle, what would you say, Dad? What's the first thing they should look for?
So there's a couple things. You want to go with a team that is experienced, right? So they've been around for a while and they know what they're doing. A team that can help you learn along the way, right? So they can provide you with resources, things that can help you. But also a team that sort of keeps you accountable or gives you the opportunity to grow and to be better.
That's really good. Yeah. You should also look for the leader. That's the most important thing when you're picking an opportunity. The leader's values and work ethic and personality is going to be printed on to whatever the team is. So if you don't respect the leader, you're not going to like the team. But if you do like the leader, you're going to become more like them as you work on that team. Can you think of any leaders that you like?
You.
Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you. And I have a real estate team, by the way. This is our pen. I've been holding it the whole time. That's a David Green team. What about Paw Patrol? Do you like Chase?
No.
You're not a Chase fan. Okay. What about My Little Pony? Who's the leader there?
I think it's Sunny.
Sunny. Okay. Would that be if you were going to be a pony, would you join the My Little Ponies?
No.
No. Okay. So you're not a fan of that team. What do you like more than My Little Pony?
Unicorns?
That's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
No.
Is there any shows you like that have a leader in it?
Like Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb. Is there a leader with Phineas and Ferb?
I think their sister Campus.
Of course, the big sister is always the leader. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wait a minute. I think I saw an episode of Phineas and Ferb where Candace was dancing. Did that happen at one point?
Yeah, I think on her birthday.
Yeah, I'm going to look that one up and I'm going to send it to your dad and then he'll show it to you.
How's that
Because
sound?
you don't have a phone yet. But when you get your real estate license, you're going to have your own phone.
Yeah, because I'll be old.
Because you'll never stop talking on it.
Yeah.
Have you ever had people tell you that if you cross your eyes, they're going to get stuck crossed?
Dad told me
Yeah.
that once. I believe
He's
I
smart,
told
right?
my
You know what
dad
else
told-
happens?
told
When you
me
become a realtor, your phone gets stuck like this.
Is that true?
And your hand won't come
Oh.
down. Yeah, you just get stuck. Like you're going around all the time. You bump into things and you knock it over because your hand can't come off your face. You have to be very careful. Well, thank you, Miss Catherine. Anything else that you would like to ask or you'd like to know about that our guests should hear?
Oh, Dad, ask your question.
Okay, I have a cue card from her. So she opened up. We're actually going to reverse interview here. So we're going to interview Catherine. She actually, along with her brother and her mom, my wife, they did a lemonade stand yesterday. And do you remember how much money you guys made in 2 hours?
I think we made 100 and some or 1,000 or what did I make?
It was
Again?
like $150.
Yeah, $150.
In just a couple hours. She went out there in the 100-degree heat, busted her butt, found a really good area, and sold this lemonade.
Yes, and now we have one plane ticket to what is it called? again?
BPCon. That's
Oh.
remember the convention in Orlando in Florida.
Oh yeah, we're going to Florida, and we have one ticket, but we each just need to make $30 more dollars, right?
A couple more tickets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple more.
So
So
You're gonna be with your dad and me in Orlando, in Florida.
You're gonna
sure,
go.
you could come.
Well, Uncle David's already gonna be there.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You surprised
Yeah.
me, didn't you?
Yeah,
No.
absolutely. I love this. Okay, so my question for Catherine is from yesterday at this, they did really well. What would you do anything different the next time you do a lemonade stand?
Yeah, because yes, actually. When we were making the lemonade stand, we need to have a good we did a good place, but just like another thing, if you're gonna do a lemonade stand, you should pick a good spot, and it shouldn't be too busy. If it's too busy, they won't want to pull over. The first thing we did, it was
That's a
going
good
too
point.
fast, but no one would come. So, but
Right.
then we picked a good spot that's not too fast, not too slow, and it's like it has a stop sign, so it went. They had a minute to think about it if they wanted lemonade.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
So
then
you understood the
should bring water.
psychology of your customer base.
And you should bring water because you don't want to be drinking your merchandise. Oh,
You don't want to get high on your own supply, right?
no, then you'll be all alone. They will be all gone.
Absolutely.
You'd be nothing to sell.
Yeah, we forgot water, and we had to.
So location. If they're going too fast, they're not going to pull over. If there's not enough people, there's no one to sell to. And the key was you found a stop sign, because then they think about it and they're like, oh, that lemonade looks so tasty and sweet.
Yeah,
And I'm so thirsty. And then you just get the hooks and you pull them right in, right?
yeah. And
you made
then they have a little place.
$150. They have what?
And there's a little turny thing where you go there, and it needs.
Oh, they need a place to park, right?
Yeah, and they need a place to park, and you need good sidewalk and shade. I think you need shade.
So location's very important.
It's like
Even more important than the lemonade, right?
Yeah,
How was the lemonade? Did people like it?
yeah, but we didn't make it because we didn't.
Well,
want it.
you don't have to tell them that, because they might hear this. You want them to think you made it at home. You squeeze the lemons yourself.
Is that true?
No.
All right. Last question for you is, what did you learn about the lemonade business?
Get a good location.
So you learned pick a good location. What else?
Yep.
Parking.
Yeah,
What'd
good
you-
parking and good sidewalk and shade and water.
And
Drink it.
what if you were to continue this business and sell
Mhm,
something
mhm.
in the winter? Would you
Mhm.
sell lemonade?
No, I would sell like hot chocolate and like other things that are more warm for the winter.
You're a good businesswoman. Do you want to know what the people are saying about you?
What?
You want me to tell you?
Yes.
One of them said the cheese is very important because people want something now and free at your open house. One of them said, she said, fact check, make sure David knows his stuff. Another one said that they love it because you would let me come to Bigger Pockets Conference, which was very nice of you. Thank you for doing that.
Welcome.
And then another one said she has great advice. Another one said that you're a smart young lady. And then another lady said that this is their favorite Friday night we've ever had. And then another person said very smart. Everyone thinks you're very smart, Miss Catherine.
What do you think about that?
That's good.
Yeah, and I think honestly, this is an important thing for all the adults watching out there, right? Whether you're an aunt, an uncle, a parent,
Grandma.
a grandma, right? We all have,
Grandpa.
and grandpas, yeah, you name it. We all have young ones in our life, right? And as much as us as adults, we love to talk about this kind of stuff and try to live this kind of stuff. Make sure you instill these values early on, because kids are super absorbable, and they're going to absorb the information that we teach them, and we instill these values. And I just get so excited watching them get excited about this. Was all their idea, David. This was their doing. When they heard that I was going to BPCon in Florida, they were saying, hey, I want to go too. And I was like, okay, well, if you earn your ticket. And they literally put it into action and went out there, and they could have complained like a lot of kids would do, and said that this is too hard, but actually went out there and had a lot of success. We actually have somebody who wants to come on as well and share the love and say hello. Do you mind if we bring him on, David?
All right. Last thing before Catherine goes. Catherine, do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is that?
I made it for your birthday.
That's right. And it's in my office.
Did you know that? It's always there.
Yeah, he told me last time I saw him.
Good.
You have such a good memory. You're going to be a lemonade connoisseur. You need to go do this again. You're too smart to not do that.
Yes. A lot of this you guys did not know, but this is a family show. What's going on, Adriana? And who else do we have? Is this Rosemary?
This is Rosemary. And
Hi, Rosemary.
she religiously watches with me whenever I watch every Friday. So she's always listening and doesn't understand a lot of it, but she's listening, right? So that's the important part.
Well, I better watch my language if I knew we had.
She might be
People
used to it.
I'm used to it.
Okay. Thank you for not judging me too harshly.
Can I just sit here?
What would you like to ask Catherine a question, or would you like to ask me or Kyle a question?
Did you freeze?
Well, you can ask her a question.
I think
Or
we
did you
got a
just
little
want to
stage
get famous
fright.
on YouTube?
How do I have stage fright? I've done 2 plays.
Okay. Okay, so do you have a question? Okay, go ahead.
Help me.
With what?
It's hard to say.
The budget question? Okay, so she was wanting to know. So I was on here before, we talked about it. I didn't know a lot about budgeting. I've been having to learn a lot about budgeting. So she did not have a good example in the first 8 years or so of her life that of somebody who was budgeting and very money conscious. So she was wanting some advice from both Kyle and David about tips on how to start saving money, how to start budgeting as a kid.
Ooh. Well, I'll start. Carl, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
You start, and then I'll fill in.
All right. So I was thinking about the Pillars framework, which we focus on in Spartan League. That's the group I run, Rosemary. So in the book I have that's going to be coming out in a couple months, I talk about there's 3 ways that you could become rich. You have to do 3 things. The first is you have to make as much money as you can. And the way you make money is you do really good work for other people. So when you finally, like, let's say that you want to get a job right now, you could be a babysitter maybe when you get a little bit older, or you could sell lemonade, or what are some other things she could do, Adriana? How would you be comfortable letting her make money?
Well, we talked about today because her brothers were wanting to do a lemonade stand, and then she wanted to do a lemonade stand, and I said, well, hey, what about a bake sale? And then you hit them both of them at once and double
Boom.
whammy everybody that
Love
walks.
That's perfect. So when you're doing that, you're bringing well, I shouldn't say bringing value to a kid. How old are you, Rosemary?
9.
Okay. You're doing very good work for the people that are going to drink your lemonade and eat your baked goods. So the more yummy that you make them, and the more that you let people know they're there, the more people are going to buy them. and the more money that you're going to make. And then after you get done, you do what Catherine did with her daddy. And you say, what could we do to make this better? Well, maybe we could get a better location, or maybe we could have lemonade and we could have cookies. So when they buy lemonade, they also buy a cookie. So you could get even more money. And every single time you go to work and you do something to make money, you think, how could I do this a little bit better? That's the first of the three things. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. The next thing is what we call defense. What this means is saving as much of your money as you can. So what most people do when they make money is they want to go spend it right away. They want to buy a Generation doll or a My Little Pony or a present for their brother if they're really nice, but they go spend all their money at Target, which is why Target is so rich that they have that dog with the little thing on his eye, because it's a zero, because everyone has zero money when they leave. But you have to resist the temptation. You have to keep your money in your piggy bank. You can't buy toys. What you want is to have other people buy you toys on your birthday and on Christmas, and just play with the same toys, or play with your friends' toys, or just give your mom hugs all day long and tell her how much you love her. So you don't even need toys. You could just have fun for free. But you want to make it a game. You want to save as much money as you possibly can and then track it every week. So if you could save $2 one week, you're like, man, how could I save $2.50 the next week? Can I get to where I can save $10? Can I get to where I can save $20 every week? And your mom could even help you make a chart. And every single time you save money in the week, you put on the chart how much you saved. And it's a game. You want to save as much as you can and make as much as you can. You don't want to spend your money on silly things. Does that part make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then when you get older, you're going to have a bunch of money that you've saved from years and years of time selling cookies, selling lemonade. When you get older, you could start babysitting. You could maybe get a job somewhere. You could help other kids with their homework, and they might pay you if you teach them how to read. There's lots of things that you could do to make money. And you want to save that money so that you could buy a car. Because when you buy a car, you can drive to further places and you can make more money. Or you learn about something that other people need help with. Like, do you know what taxes are?
I think I've heard you talking about them.
You've heard me say that word, right? So if taxes were a food, they would be broccoli. Nobody likes it, but everybody has to eat it if they want to get the dessert. So you could help other people by getting paid to eat their broccoli for them. You could help them do their taxes. And the smarter you get at helping people with taxes, because they don't want to do it, the more money that they'll pay you. Or what we have in real estate is we have people that come stay at our houses and they live there. You could help manage that person when they go to the house so that they have everything they need and they're happy. Kind of like if you've ever been to a hotel and the people at the hotel are really nice, you could help do that for people's houses. Or you could be like Catherine and you could get your real estate license and you could sell houses. Or you could help people borrow money so that they could buy houses. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. And as you're making money, you can spend that money to get licensed so you can get a better job. And then eventually you save up a whole bunch of money and you can buy a house. And when you have a house, people will pay you to live in it. So they'll give you money just like people give you money when you sell lemonade or you bake cookies. So let's go over the three things. You remember what the first thing was?
Get a good location.
That is very, yes. When you're making a lot of money, that's the first thing. The location's very important. Very nice, Catherine. Do you remember what the second thing is? What do we do with our money?
Save
We spend it. We save it. That's exactly right. You save all your money. And then the third thing is once you saved up a whole bunch of money, you invest it to where it's going to grow bigger instead of spend it on silly things.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm going to simplify that, right? So an easy way to teach this to your kids, and this is what we've done in our house, is we just set up 3 jars. Okay. So you get 3 mason jars. Okay. And we've done the jars, and they even sell these on Amazon. They're kits, and you can put in your amounts into each jar, right? So for us, we've done more of, it's basically give, spend, and save, right? But instead of the saving, you could just change that into saving for investing.
And one sharing.
That's the giving, yeah. So you just basically put a certain percent. So if let's say you earn $10 from doing chores or allowance, or you sell something. Oh yeah. Okay. I just started a new conversation there. I see. Let's say you earn that
Thanks.
$10. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Maybe you take 5 of those dollars and you save it so that you can invest it. So you put 5 of those dollars in the investing side, you put $2 in the giving side, and then maybe 2 of those dollars you choose to spend on something nice for yourself, right? But the goal is to save as much as you can, and then eventually, like David says, you want to invest that money in something, and then do a little research. We've been talking with my 11-year-old, so it's a really hard idea or hard concept to kind of figure your mind around, but how compound interest works and looking into what compound interest is. It's the 8th wonder of the world, I think is what Ben Franklin called it, right? But teaching kids early what compound interest is, because starting that investing journey, all of us wished we would have invested when we were younger, or at least learned how to do it. And so starting these principles and these disciplines early on is a great way to learn. What do you think, Kat?
I think I would save my money for a long time and maybe never spend it. And then if I kept saving it and I never spend it $1 or anything, then I might have enough money to like buy what I actually need. And you have to save up your money for stuff you actually need, not what you want.
That is really good. Do you know that's in the book I wrote?
Really?
You're making me think I should write Pillars for Kids.
What do you think? Would you read it?
Yeah.
I think that would be a fantastic idea, because there's really not a lot of books. I mean, like I said, background. If there was a kid's book that I could show to my kids that kind of built on the basis of what I listen to every week, that would be tremendously helpful.
Adriana, if I wrote a book for kids about how to save and make money, what do you think should be in it?
Don't listen.
Oh, sorry. I meant Rosemary. I was looking at the name. Sorry.
So what kind of things should be in the book if he was to write a book for kids?
For what ages?
Your age up to 12.
Hey.
What pictures should be in this book? Should there be ponies?
No, there should be donuts.
Wow. For someone that eats really healthy, you tend to like donuts quite a bit. Are you trying to make everybody else fat? Because then they'll be thirsty from all the donuts, so they'll need to drink your lemonade. This is smart. Creating your own demand in the marketplace.
I think there should be like a picture of somebody who
You're so close.
I know.
The stage fright kicked in. A picture of somebody putting money in jars.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
Should there be puppies?
I think there should be more donuts.
More donuts.
Yeah.
Just a lot of donuts.
ice cream.
Okay, wow. I see.
Yeah.
What flavor of ice cream should be in there, Rosemary?
Neapolitan.
Ooh, you know what? How many colors are in Neapolitan?
3.
And how many ways do we use in the pillar system?
3.
Yeah, I could put a different color for each of the options. That might have been brilliant. And then every little kid believes if they do this, they'll get
What do
ice
you think
cream.
about that?
I would want ice cream every day.
If you save long enough, you can buy all the ice cream you want.
That's it. What if, Rosemary, what if you owned an ice cream store and people came and they bought ice cream from you, like lemonade? She's pretending she has a beard. Very nicely done. Well, thank you for coming here. You gave me some good ideas. I'll tell you what, if the book sells really well, I will write Pillars for Kids, and I'll make sure that it has Neapolitan ice cream in it and donuts.
What do you think?
Oh, and then can you make the donuts have pink frosting and rainbow?
Well, of course. Like,
That's the only way to have
as
it.
well as the pink
No.
Neapolitan ice cream.
Raspberry jelly donut.
Okay,
Well, they can have both, right?
Yeah,
Can't
yeah,
they have pink frosting and raspberry jelly on the inside?
yeah. That would be tasty. I would eat it.
Thank you for
Awesome.
watching me every week, Rosemary, and pretending like you know what I'm saying. I appreciate it. Make sure you like this video, okay? Smash that like button.
Okay, I already did.
Oh, okay. We already did.
Say
You
nice
gotta
to meet
smash it
you.
hard.
Yes. Nice to meet you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Kat.
That was fun.
Very much so. I mean, they made $150. That's more than some people make in 2 hours of their, like, that's what people make in a day. Grown adults.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the hour by hour earnings, I mean, we were just calculating the math for fun today. It's talking about like if you guys did this, 5 days a week for a couple hours a day, this is how much you could potentially make. And I was actually amazed at how many people stop, but it makes sense because it's 105 plus degrees outside. It's going to feel good to have a little bit of a cool, refreshing lemonade, and you can't turn.
And
down
isn't
these
it
sales.
cool how people support like capitalism and little kids?
What's that?
Isn't it cool how people support capitalism with little kids, like teaching them, encouraging them to want to do more of that,
Yeah, I think us as parents, or the older generation, we just we wish we would have learned a lot of that. Like financial education just is not a thing in today's school system, or even in the school system we grew up. We had to figure out money management. We had to figure out the difference between a want and a need. We had to figure out what compound interest was and how that works. Like I think my first economics class wasn't until I was in college, right? And so we could have all benefited from that. That's why we put our kids in a school that teaches them entrepreneurial skills or business skills or just basic money management skills.
Yes, sir. Does anybody want to come in and comment on what they thought? Any questions for me? I don't think we have any other videos, do we, Kyle?
No other videos. Kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are just in general. Drop them in the comments below. We wanted to get a basic feeling of what you guys are thinking. It was definitely a little bit of a different way to go. Dragomir wants to know, David, what's the best way to send David a business offer? I'm sure that's actually a good question because you get a lot of business offers or a lot of proposals, right?
Yes, it probably would not be to send it right to me because I'll never look at it. So your best bet would be to figure out who in my circle you should send that to and be as direct and transparent as possible. So if we get anything that's very vague, like, hey, I'd like to jump on a call and discuss a business opportunity with you, I'm not committing any time to a phone call when I don't know what we're talking about. So it would start off very slow, and then we would look into if this makes any sense for us. And if it does, we would have a lot of phone calls about it. But I'll also say this for everybody listening. I just got a text from a guy 2 days ago, and he's like, hey, are you buying real estate? And I said, yeah. He's like, well, I've got these properties. Do you want to buy mine? But he's looking for like top of the market pricing. Don't come to me or anyone that you respect looking to get money from them. Like if someone's bringing me a deal, I'm expecting you've already vetted this, and this is a below market opportunity that would be worth my time to look into. Don't come and be like, oh, David has a bunch of money, so he's just going to buy a bad deal to help me out type of a thing. That's a quick way to put yourself in the wrong standing in our eyes. And don't bring me something you found on Zillow and say, what do you think about this? Because you don't know how to analyze a deal and you're hoping that I do it for you. Like if you're going to bring us something, it should be something that if you were me, you would jump on it. And if not, don't shoot your shot with that because you might not get another shot.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing too is I'm just going to be totally upfront and honest with everybody about bringing deals to David. David is more prone or open to looking at deals from people that he knows, likes, and trusts. It's like anybody else or any other thing or endeavor in life. You tend to do business with somebody that you have an ongoing relationship with. You rarely just jump into business with somebody you just met today, right? So a lot of the people that have come into our world and have maybe started ancillary businesses are usually people that they come through the Spartan League, right? Or they come to a retreat, or they come and they build, they spend time being around David and me and the rest of the group. So if that was something that was like interesting to you, if you're in the Spartan League, David knows who you are. And if you're somebody who gives and contributes and looks to serve and bring value to other people first, that's going to give you a better opportunity as opposed to just like throwing something in front of them and hoping that it sticks.
That's a really good point. There's a lot of people that kind of treated GoBundance that way. They joined GoBundance and they thought, oh, this is a bunch of millionaires. I'll pitch all my deals to them.
Yeah.
The second I heard anyone do that, they're just never going to be my friend. And I think a lot of those people are confused, like why it seems like I don't like them. Kyle sees that. People will ask him, like, what's David's problem? I feel like he doesn't like me. I probably don't. You probably showed up trying to be a predator instead of being forthright and transparent. And now I don't trust you and I don't like you and I don't want to know you. And you're not ever going to be my friend unless you take massive steps to correct that. And I think that it's not just me. I think a lot of people are that way. So if you know, I'm going here for I want to raise, like I get asked a lot of the time, people want to come on the podcast. And the reason they want to be on the podcast is it'll help their business, but they bring nothing to me about why our audience would benefit from you having there, or I would benefit from you being on there. It's just, they're like, let me just shoot my shot rather than, hey, let me come speak to Spartan League. I have something to share. Let me get in your world. Now we can kind of get to know you a little bit. We get a feeling of like what your character is. Now you're much more likely to get that opportunity, and probably more than just that opportunity. I think it's really good advice you're giving, Kyle.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been a fun conversation, a fun night. David, what's kind of some of your takeaway things of what people should be focusing on moving into the next week? I think, big takeaways from tonight is number one, if you've got a kid in your life and you can teach them financial principles, start now. Start letting them learn how to be a business owner. One of my favorite things about kids being business owners or learning how to sell, like that's such an important skill, is learning how to sell. Kids are way more open to like failing than we are as adults, right? They're way more open to rejection and getting shut down by people, right? And learning the skill of getting back up. That's probably one of the most important parts of being an entrepreneur. So teach them early on those skills and the fact that they can learn and grow. But I think number two, everybody's got to get out there and hustle right now with the way inflation's going. The government's taking over the transfer of information, and they're going to be spying on you more. I mean, there's no other time than right now than we need to be getting up every single morning and busting our butts and hustling and trying to make more money.
That's exactly right. Stop looking at how it used to be better and complaining it's not as good, and start looking in the future and seeing it could be worse. Like if we all went back 5 years, knowing what we know now, everyone would be like, buy as much real estate as you could possibly get your hands on. Rates are incredibly low. The market's really strong. Rents are going up. We're printing a ton of money. But 5 years ago, Kyle, you were trying to sell houses to people. What were they all saying?
Well, we're just going to wait for it to crash, or we're going to wait till the prices go down. There's no way that they're going to. Yeah.
Yes. The market's too hot. I don't want to overpay. And funny, because overpaying then was be getting the deal of the century at today's dollars. Right.
Yep.
And we sit here now saying, well, I would have bought back then. And we're like, okay, do you want to buy? No. Interest rates are too high. Myriad of excuses, right? Well, guess what happens, guys? When rates go back down, if they go back down, that just means you're going right back to where that's a super hot market. And it's going to be the same as it was 5 years ago, but 20% more expensive, 25% more expensive in a lot of places. I tend to look at the window on capitalism could be closing. Wouldn't I, if in 10 years, I'm going to look back and say, why didn't I start that business? Why didn't I take that risk? Why didn't I go work harder? Why did I sit around playing video games when I could have been working more? Why didn't I write that book? Why didn't I work that W-2 and go get into the next career and work 2 jobs so that I could safely transition from one to the other? Why was I freaking lazy? Because I assumed it was always going to be easy or it was going to get better. It usually doesn't. It usually gets worse. So the best thing you could do is to fast forward into the future, see how it could be depressing, and then look backwards at where you are now and feel how you would feel if you didn't take action today, and let that drive you forward. And for those who have ears to hear, let them hear. For those that don't want to believe this, that want to live in their little shell and pull the blankets over their head so the monsters don't get them, we'll go ahead and do that.
I think people are starting to feel it now, though. I mean, if you're living in a bubble and you think all this is not going to happen, I think you're maybe just delusional. But I think people are really starting to feel it. You're feeling it at the gas pump. You're feeling it in the grocery store. a freaking pack of gummy worms was like $7. I can't believe that. A little,
And
just a
here's the
pack of
difference,
gummy worms.
Kyle. It used to be like, a pack of gummy worms was 25 cents. So we're like, well,
Yeah.
that happens. But what's not happening is wages aren't doing the same thing. Okay. We're not running around like, can you believe it? They're making $400 an hour. Well, if gummy worms are $7, but you're making $400 an hour, you don't mind.
No problem.
But wages are not keeping up with how much everything's becoming expensive. You're
Yep.
on the elevator and it's moving down. You don't have to be walking down the stairs. Standing still is making you more poor.
Have you seen how expensive, I know you don't buy this a lot, but so you probably don't see it, how expensive Coca-Cola is right now?
No.
A 12 pack of Coca-Cola runs like $13 or $14 here in California. That's
It's
like,
going to be like having food and drink is a privilege. That's what that
yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Apparently there's some kind of aluminum shortage because of the war in Russia, and that's what's really driving the prices up. But it's all of these things combined with inflation of why these things continue to be up and up and up and continue to go up in price. So,
well, we were told the same thing about lumber. Like, I guess one of the things you have to realize about living in America is we import all the things that are useful and we export dollars. And for right now, dollars are still valuable, but they won't be forever because we're printing more of them. We're inflating them, which reduces their value.
yeah,
Because of this, we don't make our own stuff. We are highly dependent on other countries to send us their stuff. And when the littlest thing happens and those supply chains get disrupted, everything becomes expensive. So when lumber was like 15 times as expensive as it is now, everyone who's flipping houses was like, man, I wish I would have done it earlier. Right.
Yep.
When rates were at 3% there, I wish I would have refinanced earlier. That's so often what things are happening in your life right now that could go wrong. That you're like, that when they do, you're going to say, I wish I would have done that earlier. I wish I would have bought that toilet paper before it was more expensive. I wish I would have bought that house when there were still FHA loans to be given out. Like, I wish I would have taken the chance and not left my W-2, but started learning the next job that I should have while working the W-2 when I had the time, because a baby comes along or you end up getting divorced or some horrific thing happens and now you can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Or how about just something as simple as, I wish I would have changed to that new career. I wish I would have started looking for ways to make more income sooner instead of waiting until it's too late. And then, because we all know, if you're trying to build a new business, if you're trying to learn a new skill set, there is a ramp up period, right? You don't just jump into something new and all of a sudden start making a bunch more money. You have to learn that business. You have to learn the skill sets that are involved. And that takes time for any business. So take the time now to educate yourself, to get around other people that are going to push you, and to really look for those opportunities to make the changes that you need to make now.
That's right. Just remember that it could get worse and ask yourself how it could get worse instead of complaining that it already got worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you,
Well,
Kyle.
fun
And
stuff.
please tell Catherine that we said thank you for joining us today. She rocked it, as well as Rosemary, our two show stealers.
Absolutely. It was great having them. Thank you, everybody, for tolerating the child takeover. That was fun. And with that, I hope everybody has a great rest of their weekend. I believe you're traveling next week, David, so we probably won't have you two live, but we'll see you guys when we see you guys.
That is right. Head to davidgreen24.com and check out what I got going on. And you can actually message me from the chat app on there. I monitor that myself.
Awesome. All right. We will see
Bye, kitty
everybody.
cat.
Have a great
David.
have a
job
great week.
tonight.
See ya.